Hey everyone, I'm back with another update. In this episode, I'll cover news related to the Department of War, the Minnesota Somali Fraud Scheme mess, the Brown University shooter manhunt, and Trump news. Of course, I'll end with the noteworthy tidbits. Some politicians continue to fight against the Trump administration's strikes on narco terrorist boats in the Caribbean, while others support it. Senator John Fetterman attended a classified briefing and confirmed the Trump administration knows exactly who is on those boats, and it's also been confirmed that Chuck Schumer wrote the law that allows the administration to strike narco terrorists, titled the Maritime Drug Law Enforcement Act of 1986. Two more narco terrorist boats were struck over the past couple of days, and as for possible land attacks on cartels in Venezuela, a reporter asked President Trump if he would seek congressional authorization, and Trump replied, "I don't have to tell them, that's been proven, but I wouldn't mind it. I just hope they wouldn't leak it." In other Department of War news, the U.S. Senate gave final passage to the $900 billion National Defense Authorization Act, and President Trump signed it into law. The legislation includes a 3.8% service member pay raise and more benefits for military families, funding for the Golden Dome missile defense system, and border security. Of course, as I mentioned in a previous episode, it also gives hundreds of millions of dollars to Ukraine and Israel. On to the Minnesota Somali Fraud Scheme mess. The U.S. Attorney revealed that as much as $9 billion in Medicaid fraud came out of Minnesota, saying, "The magnitude of the fraud in Minnesota cannot be overstated," and Assistant U.S. Attorney Joe Thompson said the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services pulled claims for 14 programs identified by Minnesota officials as being particularly vulnerable to fraud and found $18 billion in Medicaid billing since 2018, meaning more than half of that was fraudulent. Calls for Minnesota Governor Tim Walz to resign continue, and the FBI raided a Somali Health Services building. Immigration enforcement has ramped up in Minnesota as some of the Somalis involved in the fraud schemes are here illegally, and Minnesota Representative Ilhan Omar was caught lying about her son being profiled by ICE. The Department of Homeland Security released a statement online that said ICE has absolutely zero record of its officers or agents pulling over Congresswoman Omar's son. Massachusetts is also having a fraud problem, with two Haitian migrants running fake stores to turn SNAP benefits into cash, earning up to $480,000 per month to a total around $7 million. These men face up to 5 years in prison. Let's switch to healthcare-related news. The U.S. House passed legislation to criminalize transgender sex operations on minors, including surgeries, puberty blockers, and hormone therapy, and they passed legislation to prevent taxpayers from funding these procedures under Medicaid. Dr. Oz filed to ban taxpayer funding of transgender procedures for children under Medicaid and CHIP, and Health and Human Services Secretary RFK Jr. took action to ban transgender sex changes for children nationwide. FDA Commissioner Marty McCary and RFK Jr. are targeting the transgender industrial complex, with 12 manufacturers receiving a notice to stop marketing breast binders for transgender children. Kennedy explained, "Doctors across the country now provide needless and irreversible sex-rejecting procedures that violate their sacred Hippocratic oath by endangering the very lives that they were sworn to safeguard." The American Medical Association, the American Academy of Pediatrics, peddled the lie that chemical and surgical sex-rejecting procedures could be good for children who suffer from gender dysphoria. They betrayed the estimated 300,000 American youth ages 13 to 17, conditioned to believe that sex can be changed. They betrayed their Hippocratic oath to do no harm. So-called gender-affirming care has inflicted lasting physical and psychological damage on vulnerable young people. This morning, I signed a declaration: sex-rejecting procedures are neither safe nor effective treatment for children with gender dysphoria. Shifting to the Brown University shooter manhunt. On the 17th, reporters accused Providence, Rhode Island officials of withholding footage and taking down cameras in Brown University to shield illegal aliens, and it was confirmed that the one exit the shooter took had no cameras. On the 18th, authorities recovered live rounds at the university, opening the door to finding the suspect through DNA, and a person of interest was identified, with police obtaining a search warrant. A tip from a witness helped trace the rental car the suspect was using, leading police to a storage facility in Salem, New Hampshire, where the suspect was found dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The suspect was identified as Claudio Manuel Neves Valente, a 48-year-old Portuguese national and former Brown University PhD student in physics. His last known address is in Miami, Florida, but his rental car came from Boston. Evidence at the scene includes 2 firearms and items like shell casings matching the Providence crime scene, linking him directly to the shooting. Investigators now believe this man was also responsible for the December 15th murder of an MIT professor in Massachusetts, about 50 miles from Providence. Providence Police Chief Oscar Perez and Rhode Island Attorney General Peter Naranja announced the findings at a press conference, praising the rapid response and a key public tipster. The $50,000 FBI reward will be considered for that individual, and it appears the suspect acted alone. Brown University President Christina Paxton issued a letter to the community, noting the news provides some closure, but emphasizing ongoing support for the victims' families and counseling services. The campus remains under enhanced security, with finals being canceled. Officials believe the slain MIT professor and the suspect went to the same school in Portugal, and Brown University continues to receive backlash for their lack of cameras in that area, because had they had better surveillance, the life of the MIT professor may have been saved. Let's move on to Trump news. President Trump reclassified marijuana from a Schedule I to a Schedule II drug, placing it in the same category as Tylenol and codeine. Trump said that he wants to emphasize that the order is not the legalization of marijuana in any way, shape, or form, and in no way sanctions its use as a recreational drug. He and Dr. Oz are now giving veterans and seniors access to cannabinoids to provide relief from common conditions, including cancer symptoms, chronic pain, and other problems that affect seniors and veterans. Trump also said that prescription painkillers have legitimate uses, but can also do damage. And I promised to be the president of common sense. That's exactly what I'm doing. President Trump and War Secretary Hegseth traveled to the Dover Air Force Base to receive and honor the fallen Iowa National Guard troops and a fallen civilian interpreter from the ISIS attack in Syria. Both participated in the dignified transfer of Sergeant William Nathaniel Howard of Marshalltown, Sergeant Edgar Brian Torres Tovar of Des Moines, and Ayad Mansour Sakat of Macomb, Michigan. Trump revealed that he defeated the lawsuit that tried to block the construction of his privately funded White House ballroom, and he endorsed Congressman Tony Gonzalez for re-election, Paul LePage for Maine's 2nd Congressional District, Kevin Lincoln for California's 13th Congressional District, Eric Flores for Texas' 34th Congressional District, and Chris Gober for Texas' 10th Congressional District. A court sided with President Trump on his deployment of thousands of National Guardsmen in Washington, D.C., and he announced that over 1,450,000 military service members will receive a $1,776 warrior dividend for Christmas from tariff revenue. Secretary Hegseth confirmed the dividend is tax-free and said, "To the American warrior, President Trump and I, and the entire War Department, have your back. We thank you for your service, and we thank you for your sacrifice. We love you and your families, and we wish you a very Merry Christmas." Trump announced the Patriot Games, which is a 4-day athletic event featuring one young man and woman from each state and U.S. territory for America's 250th, and the Kennedy Center Board voted overwhelmingly to rename it the Trump Kennedy Center, and Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt explained they voted this way because of the unbelievable work President Trump has done over the last year in saving the building, not only from the standpoint of its reconstruction, but also financially and its reputation. Trump signed an executive order declaring Christmas Eve and December 26th federal holidays, and he said he's considering declaring a national housing emergency, explaining he wants to make it possible for young people and others to buy housing, and he wants to take care of the people that already have houses. Now it's time for the noteworthy tidbits, which are brought to you today by Zevo Life. Let me tell you about them quick. Looking for a game-changing way to improve your health? Zevo Life is the world's most nutrient-dense whole plant, packed with over 50% plant protein, essential amino acids, fiber, and antioxidants. Harnessing the best nature has to offer, Zevo Life nourishes your body while driving your performance, vitality, and overall well-being. Each serving is a concentrated source of clean, well-balanced nutrition designed to support modern lifestyles, and just 1 teaspoon a day supports your gut, boosts energy, and promotes healthier skin and hair. It's no wonder that it's receiving rave 5-star reviews. Step into a healthier future with a 30% discount and a 30-day risk-free guarantee by visiting zivo.life and using my promo code. To support my show and to receive 30% off your entire order, enter in my promo code JADE, that's JADE, at checkout. All right, let's get back to the tidbits. Milwaukee judge Hannah Dugan was found guilty on felony obstruction after she tried to help a criminal illegal alien evade ICE agents, and she faces up to 5 years in prison. The U.S. Senate confirmed NASA nominee Jared Isaacman and Ho Nay to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, and Isaacman has already been sworn in. Trump signed an executive order declaring America will return to the moon by 2028 to establish parts of a lunar outpost by 2030, and Isaacman already began talks about setting up shop on the moon and going to Mars. Congressman Dan Newhouse, a Republican who voted to impeach Trump, is retiring from the House in 2026. District Attorney Fani Willis and her legal team got heated while testifying before the Georgia State Senate, claiming they were being asked dumbass questions. The U.S. House passed the GOP health care bill that lets people buy insurance in groups to save money on premiums without the Democrats' Affordable Care Act subsidies extension, and Speaker Johnson confirmed this bill will decrease premiums by 11%. According to Quinnipiac, a poll found that congressional Democrats' approval is at negative 55 points. Congressman Tim Burchett filed legislation to enact the Trump Tariff Rebate Act, explaining, "I want to increase the standard deduction for all tax-paying Americans and do that with $4,000 for joint filers and surviving spouses, $3,000 for heads of the household, and $2,000 for all other Americans. It would increase your standard deduction and it puts you in a lower tax bracket, meaning your taxes overall are decreased, which I think is pretty cool. You see some actual savings." Deputy FBI Director Dan Bongino announced he will be leaving his position with the FBI in January, saying, "I gave up everything for this. My wife is struggling. And I want to thank President Trump, AG Bondi, and Director Patel for the opportunity to serve with purpose." Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy announced he increased air traffic controller training capacity by 20% this year, explaining he was able to do so by hiring a project manager to build their new ATC system, and they have some ATCs who are close to retirement that they've asked to stay on the job with a 20% upfront cash bonus. Kamala Harris admitted on Jimmy Kimmel's show that the Biden administration refused to release the Epstein files because, in her words, "We strongly and rightly believed that there should be an absolute separation between what we wanted as an administration and what the Department of Justice did." Inflation came in lower than expected at 2.7% annually, the lowest in 4 years. According to Punchbowl, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries is demanding his Democrat members of Congress refuse to support the bill to ban congressional stock trading. Senator Bernie Sanders blocked a bipartisan bill to give kids fighting cancer more treatment options, which sparked major backlash from Senator Markwayne Mullin and others, with Mullin comparing Sanders to the Grinch, but instead of stealing Christmas, he's stealing kids' lives. The Senate confirmed 97 Trump nominees in a 53-43 vote. Turning Point USA's America Fest is underway, with a record amount of people showing up for day one, and as many as 30,000 people will be attending the event this weekend. Erica Kirk revealed that 50 TPUSA chapters are opening per day, with 140,000 requests to join, nearly 1 million students involved, over 3,000 Club America chapters, over 1,400 college chapters, and over 8,000 church partnerships. Erica also said it's her mission to get J.D. Vance elected President of the United States in 2028. That's all I have for today. I'll be back with another update soon. Until then, please like, subscribe, and share this podcast, and follow me on Instagram and X at Shades of Jade Pod. Thank you for listening and have a great day.